All right, so are you ready to unlock the secrets to speaking English fluently?
I think everyone's ready for that.
I know I am. We're going to be diving deep into this guide, 9 secrets to speaking English fluently and easily.
Sounds good to me.
And hopefully we'll be able to break down the techniques that'll help anyone reach fluency.
Yeah, because who doesn't want a cheat sheet for fluency?
Exactly. Cut through the clutter, get right to what works.
And what I think is really cool about this guide is that it's not your typical textbook stuff.
Oh, really?
It's like it dives into the mindset
Oh, wow.
and the strategies you need to actually make it happen in the real world.
So it's not all about just memorizing verb conjugations and all that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's jump right into the first secret then, embracing the learner's mindset.
Okay?
Sounds pretty basic, but what does that actually look like, in practice?
It's all about seeing those stumbles, those fumbles, those inevitable mistakes as like opportunities to learn.
Okay.
Instead of like beating yourself up over them.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're learning to play a really complex piece of music on the piano.
Oh, gosh.
You wouldn't expect to just nail it on the first try, would you?
Definitely not. I'd be hitting all the wrong notes, probably.
Exactly. And each one of those like mistakes, they're giving you valuable feedback. They're telling you, okay, adjust your technique here, and eventually you'll get to that flawless performance.
I like that analogy a lot.
And language is so similar.
Oh, yeah.
Like every time you kind of mess up, you're actually gaining these insights into how this amazing language works.
That's true.
I remember when I was learning Italian,
Oh, yeah.
I kept using the wrong preposition for this one particular sentence structure.
Oh, gosh.
And it was so frustrating. But instead of giving up, I decided to really analyze it, like what was going on there. And you know what? I ended up discovering this subtle little nuance that I had completely missed before.
Oh, wow.
And my understanding of prepositions just like skyrocketed after that.
That's a perfect example of how just reframing those mistakes can lead to these breakthroughs.
Totally.
But how can someone listening actually cultivate this learner's mindset? Like, what are some practical things they can do?
Well, this guide actually gives a couple of really good practical methods.
Okay.
One is to start a progress journal.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just take a few minutes each day to jot down what you've learned, maybe what went well, what you struggled with.
Okay.
Because then when you look back and you see how far you've come, it's incredibly motivating.
I love that. I love the progress journal idea because it's like a tangible record of your growth.
Yes.
Especially on those days where you feel like, I'm not getting anywhere. You can look back and be like, wow, I've come a long way.
It's so powerful.
Yeah. What about rewarding yourself for those wins, even the small ones? Does that tie into this?
Oh, absolutely. Celebrating those milestones helps reinforce positive learning habits.
Okay.
And it keeps you motivated, whether it's a small treat
Yeah.
or watching an episode of your favorite show.
Yeah.
Even just taking a break to do something you enjoy. Those little rewards, they go a long way.
I like that. All right, so let's move on to secret number 2. Speaking as often as possible, even if you're alone.
Okay.
I have to admit, I've definitely caught myself having conversations with my plants in English before.
I think we've all been there.
But, is that actually helpful?
It might sound a little silly,
Yeah.
but there's actually some solid science behind this.
Okay.
Because every time you speak, you're engaging those muscles that are involved in producing those specific sounds.
I've never thought about that.
It's like working out at the gym, but for your vocal cords and your brain.
Oh, wow.
I remember when I was getting ready for a big presentation in Spanish,
Okay.
and I was pretty nervous about it, so I started practicing out loud, even when I was alone in my apartment.
You were just talking to yourself.
Yeah, I would pace around talking to this imaginary audience, asking them questions, responding to their reactions.
Oh, wow.
It felt a little awkward at first,
Yeah.
but the more I did it, the more natural it became.
So it's all about building that muscle memory.
Yes.
Getting your brain and your mouth used to forming those sounds.
Exactly.
Cool. And the best part is you can do it anytime, anywhere.
All right.
Narrate your day, have these imaginary debates, sing along to English songs. Just get those words flowing.
Exactly. Just find those opportunities to speak and let it flow.
Speaking of flow, that leads us perfectly into the next secret,
Okay.
which emphasizes the power of listening. Why is listening so important for fluency?
Well, think about how we all learned our first language. We spent months, maybe even years, just absorbing those sounds and patterns
Right.
before we ever even uttered a word.
Yeah.
So listening, it's really the foundation upon which we build our understanding of any language.
You know what? I've actually noticed that when I spend a lot of time watching movies or TV shows in English, my pronunciation and intonation actually improve.
Interesting.
It's like my brain's subconsciously picking up on those nuances.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like you're immersing yourself in the language.
Right.
Even if it's just virtually.
Yeah.
And this guide, It actually has some great suggestions for maximizing your listening practice.
I'm assuming podcasts are one of them.
Oh, podcasts are amazing.
I love podcasts.
And there's honestly something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, if you're interested in news analysis, you could try The Daily from the New York Times.
Okay.
Or if you want, like, science and storytelling, there's this really cool podcast called Radio Lab.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
And if you're looking for something a little more humorous,
Okay.
I highly recommend My Dad Wrote a Porno.
That sounds hilarious.
So funny.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. And of course, we can't forget about music.
Of course not.
Such a great way to not only pick up new vocabulary and idioms and slang, but also just to kind of get that pronunciation and intonation in a fun way.
Right. Because it's way more fun than just doing drills.
Yes, exactly.
Singing along.
So much more enjoyable.
Much better.
Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of language learning.
All right.
Secret number 4, chunking and collocations.
Love these.
Can you break down for us what those are and why they're so important for fluency?
Okay, so imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
It would take forever if you had to lay each brick one by one, right?
Yeah, that would be very time-consuming.
Chunking and collocations are like having these prefabricated walls and roof sections.
Oh.
So you could assemble things much faster
Okay.
and create a more, like, cohesive structure.
I'm liking this analogy. So instead of focusing on individual words, we should be looking for these chunks of language.
Yes. And these chunks are called collocations.
Okay.
They're so common in English.
Okay.
For example, we say heavy rain,
Okay.
not strong rain.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or make a decision,
Yeah.
not take a decision.
I see. I think I do that sometimes.
And that's where these collocations come in. They help you sound more natural and fluent by using combinations that native speakers just instinctively use.
Yeah, because I noticed that sometimes, like, I know all the vocabulary, but I can't quite figure out how to put them together in the right way.
Exactly.
So how can listeners start incorporating these chunking and collocations into their routine?
So one really simple technique is to create what's called a phrase notebook.
Okay.
So as you're reading or listening and you come across these collocations, just jot them down in your notebook,
Okay.
along with their meanings and maybe some example sentences.
I like that. And I would assume that these space repetition apps we talked about earlier would also be helpful for this.
Oh, they're amazing for this.
Yeah.
Because space repetition helps move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory
Okay.
by presenting you with that material at gradually increasing intervals.
Gotcha.
So it's like having a personal trainer, but for your vocabulary.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to secret number 5. And this one might be reassuring to our listener.
Okay.
It's okay to simplify your sentence structures, especially at the beginning.
Especially at the beginning.
Does that mean we don't have to worry about grammar?
No, grammar's still important.
Okay.
But fluency isn't about trying to build these, like, super complex sentences right away.
Right.
Actually, using shorter, simpler sentences can make you sound more confident and more fluent,
Interesting.
especially when you're still developing your skills.
So it's more about clarity and conciseness than trying to, sound super smart with your grammar.
Exactly. Imagine you're explaining, like, a really complex concept to someone.
Okay.
It's way easier to understand if you break it down into smaller, bite-sized chunks, right?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely get caught up sometimes trying to construct these elaborate sentences, and it just ends up sounding confusing.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So there's a really simple technique from the guide.
Okay.
You start with a basic sentence,
Uh-huh.
like, I enjoy reading.
Okay.
Then you gradually add details and complexity.
Oh, I like that.
So you could say, I enjoy reading books about history,
Okay.
and then expand it further. I enjoy reading books about history, especially biographies of influential leaders.
So you're building upon that simple sentence.
Yes.
Without making it overly complicating.
Exactly.
So it's finding that balance between clarity and complexity.
Yes.
And, starting simple and then gradually working your way up.
That's the key. And don't be afraid to experiment and see what feels more natural for you.
Yeah.
You might find that certain sentence structures are easier for you to produce than others.
Right.
The important thing is to keep practicing, keep refining those skills.
Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Or at least progress.
Or at least progress, yeah.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the secrets of fluent English.
So we've already uncovered some really cool strategies so far.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
But I'm always up for more tips and tricks, you know what I mean? What else does this guide have in store for us?
It talks a lot about staying curious
Okay.
and, like, making your learning engaging.
I can definitely see how that would be important. Like, if you're genuinely interested in something, it's got to be way easier to stay motivated, right?
Exactly. It's like instead of slogging through those boring textbook exercises,
Oh, yeah.
you're exploring subjects that actually pique your curiosity,
Right.
whether it's, technology, sports, global news.
Okay.
Even something like cooking or fashion.
Ooh, fashion.
That's a good one.
Like, imagine diving into the world of, like, fashion magazines and blogs and documentaries all in English.
Yeah.
You'd not only be picking up new vocabulary, but you'd also be gaining these insights into, like, cultural trends and perspectives.
Totally. That's exactly what it's all about.
Okay.
And it brings us to another important aspect of fluency, cultural immersion.
Oh, okay.
Because language is so much more than just, words and grammar.
Right.
It's a reflection of a culture's values, its history, its way of life.
I like that. So by immersing ourselves in English language media, we're kind of getting a deeper understanding of the culture that shapes the language.
Yeah, it's like you're getting this backstage pass to how native speakers actually think and express themselves.
That's cool. So it's not just about memorizing vocabulary lists. You're connecting with, like, the heart and soul of the language.
Yes, exactly.
I love those aha moments. When you finally grasp a tricky grammar concept.
Yeah.
Or you effortlessly use a new idiom in conversation.
The best feeling.
But this guide really emphasizes, like, acknowledging even the small victories.
Yes.
Those tiny steps forward that might seem insignificant at the time. Why is that so important?
It's all about maintaining motivation and momentum.
Okay.
Because language learning, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
For sure.
And there are going to be times when you hit a plateau, you feel discouraged.
Yeah, definitely been there.
But if you can train yourself to recognize and appreciate those tiny little sparks of progress,
Okay.
it makes all the difference in staying the course.
It's like those fitness trackers that celebrate every 1,000 steps you take.
Yes.
Even if you haven't quite reached your daily goal yet.
Exactly. It's like those little nudges of encouragement.
They can be really motivating.
Very motivating. And it's important to celebrate those wins in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
So maybe it's treating yourself to a fancy coffee or watching an episode of your favorite show.
Okay.
Or just taking a moment to savor that feeling of accomplishment.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about staying curious, immersing ourselves in the culture, celebrating those small wins.
Yeah.
What about the practical side of things? Like,
Okay.
how does this guide recommend structuring our study time?
It offers this sample weekly plan
Okay.
that emphasizes a balance between focused study
Uh-huh.
and then real-world application.
I like that.
And of course, you can tailor it to your own needs and preferences.
Right.
But the general idea is to dedicate specific blocks of time
Okay.
to different aspects of language learning.
Got it. So, for example, Mondays could be for grammar review
Yes,
and maybe practicing conversation with a language partner.
perfect. Exactly. Then midweek, you might focus on expanding your vocabulary,
Okay.
maybe by learning new collocations
Oh, yeah.
related to a topic that you're passionate about.
Cool.
You could read articles, listen to podcasts, even watch documentaries on that subject,
Uh-huh.
and actively jot down any interesting phrases or expressions that you come across.
I like that. And maybe Fridays could be for, like, fine-tuning pronunciation through drills or shadowing exercises.
Exactly. And don't forget to leverage the weekend for immersive experiences.
Okay.
Maybe you attend an English language meetup,
Oh, cool.
or you watch a movie without subtitles,
Oh, that's a good one.
or you just chat with a friend in English.
Okay.
Those real-life interactions are so valuable.
Yeah, it sounds like the key is to create a routine that works for you and then stick to it consistently.
Absolute consistency is key.
Okay, but let's circle back to those 9 secrets for a second.
Okay.
And see if there are any specific strategies that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
I know we talked about chunking and collocations in the first part.
Yeah.
Any additional tips on how to really master those?
One thing this guide emphasizes is the importance of context.
Okay.
So don't just memorize collocations in isolation.
Uh-huh.
Try to encounter them in their natural habitat, so to speak.
Okay.
Pay attention to how they're used in articles, books, movies, conversations.
It's like learning a new dance move. You can watch videos and try to mimic the steps,
Yeah.
but it's not until you actually get out on the dance floor
Yeah.
and try it out in a real setting that you truly understand how it works.
I love that analogy.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, the more you encounter those collocations in those authentic contexts,
Okay.
the later you'll understand their nuances and how to use them effectively.
Okay, so context is key. What about those of us who tend to overthink our sentences
Yeah.
and get stuck in grammar land?
Oh, yeah.
Any advice for overcoming that?
The guide reminds us that fluency is not about grammatical perfection.
Okay.
It's about conveying your message clearly and confidently.
Uh-huh.
even if your sentences aren't perfectly structured.
So it's better to speak like a slightly imperfect sentence fluently
Yes,
than to stumble over a grammatically perfect sentence.
exactly. And remember that technique we talked about earlier, sentence expansion?
Oh, yeah.
You can start with a basic sentence and gradually add details and complexity as you become more comfortable.
I like that. So the key is to prioritize clarity and flow over grammatical intricacy.
Especially in spoken English, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm curious about those techniques we discussed for refining pronunciation, like reading aloud and shadowing.
Yeah,
Any additional tips for getting the most out of those?
absolutely. When you're reading aloud, try to focus not only on the accuracy of your pronunciation,
Okay.
but also on the rhythm and intonation of the language.
So it's not just about saying the words correctly, but also about capturing that natural flow and expressiveness.
It's like adding musicality to your speech.
Oh, I like that a lot. And what about shadowing?
Okay, so one helpful tip is to break down the audio clip into smaller chunks.
Okay.
So instead of trying to shadow a whole podcast episode,
Right.
you could start with a short segment, maybe a minute or two.
Okay.
Listen to it several times, paying attention to the speaker's pronunciation and intonation. Then pause the audio and try to mimic the speaker as closely as possible.
Gotcha. So it's like practicing a short musical phrase on an instrument,
Yeah.
getting each note and nuance just right before moving on to the next phrase.
I love that analogy. It's perfect. And just like with music practice, consistency is key.
Okay.
Even a few minutes of shadowing practice each day can really improve your pronunciation and fluency over time.
I know we've talked about setting SMART goals, but sometimes the sheer scope of language learning can feel overwhelming.
Yes.
Any advice for like breaking down those fluency aspirations into more manageable chunks?
The guide suggests setting smaller, more specific goals
Okay.
that align with your overall fluency objectives.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of simply aiming to improve my vocabulary,
Yeah.
you could set a goal to learn 10 new collocations related to travel each week.
I like that that's much more concrete and measurable.
Yes, exactly. And it feels much more attainable than just saying, I want to learn all the English words.
Right. And it's still contributing to that broader goal of fluency.
Exactly. And don't forget to track your progress.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you use a notebook, a spreadsheet, a language learning app, having that visual representation of your achievements can be so motivating.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this segment, exploring all these practical tips and strategies for boosting fluency.
We have.
But before we move on to our final thoughts,
Okay.
I want to circle back to that concept of balance for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about balancing focused study with real-world application.
Right.
But what about balancing the different elements of language learning itself?
That's such a good point. Remember that three-legged stool analogy we discussed earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Fluency is built on that solid foundation of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation.
Uh-huh.
And neglecting any one of those areas can weaken that entire structure.
It's so tempting to focus on the areas we enjoy most.
Yeah.
Like, I love reading, so I could spend hours reading English novels
Yeah.
or binge watching TV shows, but then maybe I neglect those grammar exercises or pronunciation drills.
Yeah, it's natural to gravitate towards what we find enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it's so important to find that balance
Okay.
that ensures that you're dedicating sufficient time and attention to all three legs of the stool.
So how can our listener make sure they're maintaining that balance?
The guide suggests creating a cyclical practice schedule
Okay.
where you alternate between those different areas of language learning.
Okay.
So, for instance, you might focus on grammar exercises and conversation practice on Mondays,
Okay.
vocabulary building and writing on Wednesdays,
Gotcha.
and pronunciation drills and listening comprehension on Fridays.
So you're cycling through
Exactly.
and hitting all those different areas.
Yes. And of course, you can adjust the schedule to fit your own preferences and learning style.
Right. It's all about finding what works for you.
That's the key.
That's a great reminder because it's so easy to get caught up in one aspect of language learning and neglect the others.
Yeah.
But just like with a balanced diet, variety is key for overall fluency health.
I love that analogy. Variety is key.
All right, so here we are at the final part of our fluency deep dive.
Yeah, we've explored 9 secrets, a whole bunch of strategies. Now we just got to bring it all together.
So it's like our fluency action plan, ready to go to put it all into practice.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So what are the key takeaways, the biggest ha moments from this whole guide?
You know, one of the most powerful ideas is that fluency. It's not like this finish line you cross. You know? It's this ongoing process. It's a journey of discovery and growth.
I like that because then you can enjoy the process and celebrate those milestones.
Exactly. And it kind of ties in with that whole learner's mindset thing. You know, it's shifting away from that fear of making mistakes.
Right.
To being curious about what you can learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
When you're not afraid to stumble, you're more likely to experiment, take risks,
Totally.
and really immerse yourself.
But mistakes can be discouraging sometimes, especially when you feel like you're stuck.
Right.
So how can our listener, use this guide to kind of break through those plateaus?
Well, immersion is key.
Okay.
This guide really emphasizes surrounding yourself with English as much as possible.
Yeah.
So podcasts, movies, music, even social media.
Yeah, I've been really into documentaries lately.
Oh, nice.
And there are so many good ones in English. It's like a great way to learn about different topics and improve my listening at the same time.
That's awesome. And remember the power of real-world interactions.
Right.
Whether it's through language exchange apps or conversation clubs or just chatting with friends.
Yeah.
Those authentic experiences, they're so essential.
So it's putting those skills to the test in the real world.
Exactly. Which can be a little scary at first, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to one of the most practical strategies from the guide, chunking and collocations.
Yes.
Like, it's such a good way to sound more natural and fluent.
I think such.
Instead of searching for the individual words, you just have these ready-made chunks.
It's like a secret weapon.
Exactly. So the more you see these collocations in real situations, the better you'll understand them.
Exactly. So it's not just about memorizing those lists.
Right.
It's about observing how those phrases are used in real life.
Yeah.
Like noticing how a character in a movie uses a particular phrase.
Yeah.
Or paying attention to the word combinations in a news article.
So paying attention to those little things.
Exactly. And for those who get kind of bogged down by the grammar,
yeah.
remember fluency. It's not about perfection.
So it's okay to start with those simpler sentences.
Absolutely. And gradually add that complexity as you get more comfortable.
Right. Just focus on getting your message across.
Yes.
Okay. And then last but not least, those techniques for refining pronunciation, reading aloud and shadowing.
Those are good ones.
Any final tips to make those even more effective?
So when you're reading aloud, try to really embody the language.
Okay.
Pay attention to that rhythm, intonation, the pauses, the emphasis, like you're an actor delivering a line.
Oh, channeling your inner Shakespeare.
Exactly. And when you're shadowing, focus on those smaller chunks.
Yeah.
Listen really closely to how that speaker is shaping those sounds and try to mimic them.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to record yourself. And then listen back.
Because sometimes it's eye-opening.
It's like, whoa, that's what I sounds like.
Exactly. And when it comes to staying motivated, remember those specific achievable goals.
Those SMART goals, right?
Yes.
But don't just vaguely aim for fluency.
Right.
Break it down into those smaller steps.
Exactly. So, for example, you could say, I'm going to learn 5 new idioms related to work this week.
Okay.
Or I'm going to practice shadowing for 10 minutes each day.
Okay.
Because those concrete targets, they'll help you stay focused.
And track that progress, so you can see how far you've come.
It's encouraging, especially on those days when you're not feeling so motivated.
Totally. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, got to bring it back to balance one last time.
Yes.
Fluency, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. Make sure you're nurturing all three.
All 3 legs of the steel.
Exactly. So, if you're spending hours and hours on vocabulary, but you're not practicing your pronunciation.
Yeah, you got to shift your focus a little bit.
Got to find that equilibrium.
Exactly. And remember, the best way to learn is by doing. Don't be afraid to step outside that comfort zone.
Right.
And use your English in real-life situations.
Exactly. So ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, chatting with a stranger.
Yeah, those interactions, they'll build your skills and your confidence.
So there you have it. 9 secrets, a ton of strategies, and a reminder. Enjoy the journey.
Embrace it.
This guy asks a great question. How will you personalize these secrets and make them your own?
It's up to you.
So reflect on what you learned today and start creating your own path. Remember, language learning's an adventure. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep sharing your gift of language.
Until next time, happy language learning. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing things a little different. We're diving into another podcast episode. It's called, If You Know These 15 Phrases, Your English is Amazing.
The idea is that certain phrases can be like a secret code to unlock an fluent and natural sound in English.
That's really interesting. The Source podcast emphasizes learning phrases instead of just individual words. It argues that this approach helps with internalizing grammar and natural speech patterns. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, it makes sense. We don't learn our native languages by memorizing dictionaries. We pick up phrases and expressions organically. It's like absorbing the music of the language.
Right. Think about how children learn language. They start by mimicking phrases, whole chunks of meaning, long before they even understand individual grammar rules.
So are you ready to unlock the secrets of these amazing phrases?
Yeah, let's dive in. I'm curious to see what we find.
Okay, the first phrase that caught my eye is a blessing in disguise. The Source podcast defines it as something that seems bad at first, but turns out to be good. It seems pretty straightforward, but I wonder if there's more to it. It's a classic example of how a phrase can capture a complex idea so concisely, but there's a depth to a blessing in disguise that goes beyond just its definition. It kind of speaks to a certain resilience of the human spirit, a belief that even in adversity, something good can emerge.
You've got me thinking. It's like finding the silver lining in a difficult situation. So much more evocative than just saying something turned out okay.
Exactly. And if you think about it, this idea of hidden blessings has roots in many cultures and philosophies. It's a universal human experience to find meaning and growth in unexpected places.
That's fascinating. It's almost like a little window into the human condition packed into just 4 words.
Exactly. And for someone learning English, understanding the deeper cultural context of a phrase like this can be just as important as knowing its literal meaning.
Okay, so how would you use this phrase in a real conversation?
Okay, let's say you applied for a job but didn't get it. Later, you find an even better opportunity. You might say, missing out on that first job was a blessing in disguise.
I get it. It's a way of expressing gratitude for how things worked out, even if the initial experience was disappointing.
Yeah, it's a way of reframing a negative experience and finding the positive.
All right, ready for the next phrase? This one is bite the bullet. The definition they give is to do something difficult or unpleasant that you've been avoiding. Kind of makes you wonder where it came from, right?
It definitely paints a vivid picture, and the origin is actually quite interesting. It comes from the days before anesthesia was common-like. Soldiers undergoing surgery would literally bite down on a bullet to endure the pain.
Wow. That's a bit more intense than I imagined. So it's not about avoiding something. It's about facing it head on, even if it's going to be tough.
Exactly. Bite the bullet conveys a sense of grit, determination, and accepting a necessary evil. It's about taking action despite fear or discomfort.
I can see how that would be a useful phrase for anyone, not just English learners.
Absolutely. We all have those tasks or situations we'd rather avoid. So next time you're facing something unpleasant, think of those brave soldiers and bite the bullet.
I will. I bet that mental image will definitely get me moving. Now let's move on to a phrase that I think we can all relate to, especially in social situations. It's break the ice. The Source podcast says it means to start a conversation in a social situation. Pretty self-explanatory, right?
It seems straightforward, but break the ice is actually quite nuanced. It's not just about starting any conversation. It's about easing tension, creating a sense of warmth and connection, often using humor or lightheartedness.
So it's not just about saying hello. It's about creating an atmosphere where people feel comfortable opening up. It's almost like you're setting the tone for the interaction.
Exactly. Imagine you're at a party where you don't know many people. Instead of launching into a deep discussion, you might break the ice by making a playful comment about the food or the music.
That's a great example. Or let's say you're at a networking event. You could break the ice by asking someone about their work in a casual, non-intimidating way.
Precisely. It's about making that initial connection feel natural and enjoyable.
Okay, this next one is a phrase I find myself using quite often, especially after a long day of recording. It's call it a day. The definition they give is to stop working on something. I'm curious, is there anything interesting to unpack here?
There is. Call it a day isn't just about stopping work. It's about drawing a clear boundary between effort and rest. It signifies a conscious decision to step away, to recharge, and to acknowledge that you've done enough for now.
I never thought of it that way, but it makes total sense. It's not about giving up. It's about recognizing your limits and prioritizing well-being.
Exactly. It's a healthy way to manage your energy and avoid burnout. And it can apply to anything, not just work. You can call it a day on a hobby project, a workout, or even a frustrating argument.
That's a good point. It's about knowing when to step back and regroup.
Right. And it's a phrase that's understood across many cultures. It speaks to a universal human need for balance and renewal.
All right, let's move on to a phrase that's often used in a professional context. Cut corners. The Source podcast says it means to do something in a cheaper or easier way that's not always good. What are your thoughts on this one?
Cut corners is interesting because it's almost always used negatively. It suggests a compromise in quality or ethics, a willingness to sacrifice excellence for speed or convenience.
It's like taking the easy way out, even if it means the end result won't be as good.
Exactly. And the imagery is powerful, isn't it? Cutting corners suggests strain from a proven path. a deviation that can lead to unforeseen consequences.
Makes me think of builders who use cheap materials to save money, but then the building isn't safe. Or a student who cheats on an exam to get a better grade.
Those are perfect examples. Cutting corners often leads to problems down the road. It might save time or effort in the short term, but it rarely pays off in the long run.
It sounds like a warning as much as a phrase.
It is. It reminds us that true success comes from doing things the right way, even if it's harder.
Okay, are you ready for a phrase that might get a bit wild?
Bring it on. I'm all ears.
This one is get out of hand. The Source podcast defines it as something becomes difficult to control. I have a feeling this one could apply to a lot of situations.
You're right. Get out of hand is all about a loss of control. A situation escalating beyond its intended boundaries. It can be lighthearted, like a party getting a bit too rowdy, but it can also describe more serious situations.
I can see that. Like a peaceful protest turning into a riot or a friendly debate escalating into a heated argument. It sounds like a phrase that captures a loss of order.
Precisely. It implies a sense of chaos, unpredictability, and often regret that things went too far.
So how would someone learning English use this phrase correctly?
Let's say you planned a small gathering, but word spread and suddenly your house is full of people. You could say, things got a little out of hand.
That's a great example. It's not blaming anyone. It's just acknowledging that the situation took on a life of its own.
Exactly. It's a way of describing a situation where things didn't go according to plan, but with a touch of humor and resignation.
Okay, on to a phrase that's all about getting things right. Hit the nail on the head. The definition is to be exactly right about something. I feel like this one is universally satisfying, don't you?
It is. Hitting the nail on the head implies accuracy, precision, and a sense of mastery. The imagery is so vivid, like driving a nail straight in with one perfect strike.
Yeah, it's like that aha moment when you finally understand something. Or when someone perfectly articulates what you've been struggling to express. It's almost like a verbal bullseye.
Exactly. And it's a phrase that's often used to acknowledge someone's insight or to express agreement. Imagine you're brainstorming ideas and someone suggests a solution that perfectly addresses the problem. You might say, you hit the nail on the head.
It's like saying, you get it. You've nailed the essence of the issue.
Precisely. It's a way of celebrating clarity, shared understanding, and finding that perfect solution.
Okay, up next is a phrase that's all about communication, especially in team settings. It's keep someone in the loop. The Source podcast defines it as to keep someone informed about what's happening. What do you think is important to highlight here?
Keep someone in the loop highlights the importance of transparency and inclusion. It's about making sure everyone involved has the information they need to contribute effectively and to feel like they're part of the process.
Yeah, it makes me think of those frustrating situations where you're left out of the loop and then suddenly expected to be up to speed on a project.
Exactly. Keeping someone in the loop is about respecting everyone's time and preventing those kinds of misunderstandings. It's about proactive communication and building trust.
So how might someone use this phrase in a way that's natural and fluent?
Let's say you're working on a project with a team and you have a meeting where key decisions are made. You could say to someone who couldn't attend, "Don't worry, I'll keep you in the loop on what was decided."
I can see how that would be reassuring and make someone feel included even if they weren't physically present. It's about maintaining those communication lines even when things get busy.
Exactly. It shows consideration and a commitment to collaboration.
Okay, are you ready for a phrase that's a bit more mischievous?
I love a good dose of mischief. Let's hear it.
This one is let the cat out of the bag. The Source podcast defines it as to reveal a secret. It sounds harmless enough, but I wonder if there's a deeper meaning behind it.
There is. Let the cat out of the bag suggests a certain playfulness, a lighthearted approach to revealing something that was supposed to be hidden.
I like how it doesn't have to be a serious betrayal. It could be an accidental slip-up or even a deliberate but good-natured reveal.
You've got it. It's a way of adding a touch of humor or surprise to a situation where a secret is revealed.
So how could someone use this in a conversation?
Imagine you're planning a surprise party for a friend. If someone accidentally mentions the party in front of the friend, you might say, "Oops, you let the cat out of the bag."
It's almost like you're acknowledging the mistake, but in a way that doesn't make the situation too serious or awkward.
Exactly. It's about keeping things light and fun, even when a secret is spilled.
All right, up next is a phrase that suggests competence and being prepared. It's on the ball. The definition they give is being alert and efficient. I'm picturing someone who's always one step ahead. What are your thoughts?
You're right on the mark. Being on the ball implies a sharpness of mind, a readiness to act, and a proactive approach to whatever comes your way. It's a compliment that suggests someone is both capable and reliable.
So it's not just about being smart. It's about being prepared and able to anticipate what's needed.
Precisely. It's about being mentally and physically ready to handle any situation that arises. It comes from the world of sports, particularly baseball, where being on the ball means being ready to catch it.
So it's about being focused, alert, and in the zone. I can see how that would be a valuable quality in any field.
Absolutely. Think of a colleague who always anticipates problems before they arise, or a student who's always on top of their assignments. They're both on the ball, demonstrating a commitment to excellence.
Okay, time for a phrase that I think everyone loves to use, at least occasionally. It's pull someone's leg. The definition is to joke or tease someone. This one always makes me smile, especially when it's done well.
It's such a playful phrase. Pulling someone's leg involves a bit of gentle deception, a playful misdirection that's meant to elicit a laugh or a surprised reaction.
It's like a verbal prank, but with a good-natured intention.
Exactly. It's about creating a moment of shared humor, a bond of playfulness between people.
I'm thinking of a time when my friend told me she'd won the lottery and I was so excited for her. Then she revealed she was just pulling my leg.
That's a perfect example. It's about creating a brief moment of disbelief before the truth is revealed, all in the spirit of fun.
It's important to do it with people who understand your humor, though. You don't want to accidentally hurt anyone's feelings or cause genuine confusion.
That's a good point. It's all about gauging the situation and using this phrase with people who appreciate that kind of playful banter.
Okay, ready for a phrase that's a bit spooky, but in a fun way.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
This one is speak of the devil. The Source podcast defines it as that the person you were talking about has just appeared. This is one of those phrases I've always wondered about. It seems almost magical, right?
It does have a touch of the supernatural, doesn't it? Speak of the devil acknowledges a strange coincidence that the very person you were just discussing has suddenly materialized.
It's like they were summoned by the mere mention of their name.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This phrase actually comes from a longer saying, speak of the devil, and he doth appear. It reflects a long-held superstition that talking about the devil might actually cause him to show up.
That's a bit creepy. But I can see how that evolved into the more lighthearted phrase we use today. It's like we're acknowledging the oddness of the coincidence without taking the superstition too seriously.
Exactly. It's become a playful way to express surprise and amusement at someone's unexpected arrival. Imagine you're catching up with a friend, and you mention another friend you haven't seen in ages. Suddenly, that friend walks into the cafe.
You'd say, speak of the devil.
Exactly. It's a way of acknowledging the funny timing and welcoming them into the conversation.
It's a great example of how a phrase can evolve over time and take on a new meaning while still retaining a bit of its original flavor.
It highlights how language is constantly changing and adapting to new social contexts.
Okay, this next one is all about taking things with a grain of salt. The Source podcast defines it as not to take something too seriously. What are your thoughts?
Take it with a grain of salt is a fantastic phrase for navigating the sea of information we encounter every day. It encourages a healthy skepticism, a critical thinking approach that recognizes not everything we hear or read is entirely true or accurate.
So it's about being discerning and not blindly accepting everything at face value?
Precisely. It's about recognizing that information can be biased, incomplete, or even intentionally misleading.
It's like that saying, consider the source.
Exactly. Take it with a grain of salt. Empowers you to evaluate information thoughtfully and to form your own conclusions.
How might someone use this phrase naturally in a conversation?
Let's say you read a sensational headline online about a celebrity scandal. You might say to a friend, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt until I hear more details.
It's a way of saying, I'm not going to jump to conclusions based on limited information.
Exactly. It demonstrates a cautious and thoughtful approach to information consumption.
All right, let's dive into a phrase that's all about taking action. The ball is in your court. The Source podcast defines it as it's your turn to take action. It seems pretty straightforward, but I'm curious if there's more to uncover here.
The ball is in your court is a clear and concise way to hand over responsibility. It acknowledges that a certain stage of a process has been completed and that it's now someone else's turn to make a decision or take the next step.
It makes me think of a tennis match where the ball literally goes back and forth.
That's exactly where it comes from. It's a powerful metaphor for how responsibility shifts in interactions.
It's a great way to signal that you've done your part and that you're waiting for a response or action from the other person.
Absolutely. Imagine you've sent a proposal to a client and you've followed up a few times. You might say, I've given you all the information you need. The ball is in your court now.
It's a way of being assertive without being aggressive.
Yeah.
You're clearly stating that you're waiting for them to take the next step.
Exactly. It's a polite but firm way to move things forward.
Okay, ready for a phrase that's a universal truth we all experience?
I'm all ears.
This one is time flies. The Source podcast defines it as time passes very quickly. This is one of those phrases that just makes you pause and reflect, right?
It does. Time flies speaks to the fleeting nature of time and how easily it seems to slip away. It's a sentiment that's been expressed in many cultures and languages throughout history.
It's like we're all on this fast-moving train, and sometimes it feels like we're just watching the scenery rush by.
Exactly. It's a reminder to be present and to savor each moment. Because time waits for no one.
How might someone use this phrase in a conversation?
Imagine you're catching up with an old friend you haven't seen in years. You might say, "It's amazing how time flies. It feels like just yesterday we were in high school."
It's a way of expressing a sense of wonder and a bit of nostalgia for how quickly time has passed.
Precisely. It's a way to connect with someone over shared experiences and to acknowledge the passage of time.
All right, that covers the first 8 phrases. I'm already feeling like I have a whole new set of tools to express myself in English. It's amazing how these seemingly simple phrases could be so packed with meaning.
It's true. Each phrase is like a little window into the history, culture, and psychology of the language.
I'm excited to explore the rest of these amazing phrases and see what other insights we uncover.
Let's do it. I have a feeling there are even more gems waiting to be discovered.
All right, we're back, ready to tackle the next batch of phrases from the podcast. If you know these 15 phrases, your English is amazing. We've already uncovered some fascinating insights, but I have a feeling there's much more to explore. Where should we pick up?
Let's jump into a phrase that often comes up when we need to make a decision, especially when it comes to risky ventures. It's go out on a limb. The Source podcast defines it as to do something risky or something that people might criticize. What are your thoughts on this one?
Go out on a limb. Definitely paints a vivid picture in my mind. I imagine someone carefully stepping onto a tree branch that's extending away from the trunk, unsure if it will hold their weight.
That's a great visualization. The phrase evokes a sense of vulnerability and uncertainty, doesn't it? It suggests taking a chance, putting yourself in a potentially precarious position, but also implies a willingness to stand out from the crowd.
It's like taking a leap of faith, knowing that there's a chance you might fall, but also a chance you might reach something amazing.
Exactly. It takes courage to go out on a limb, to deviate from the well-trodden path and pursue something unconventional or untested.
So how would you use this phrase in a real conversation?
Let's say a friend is considering quitting their stable job to start their own business. You might say, I know it's risky, but I think you should go out on a limb and pursue your dream.
It's like you're encouraging them to take that leap of faith, even though it might be scary.
Right. Go out on a limb suggests supporting someone's bold decision, even if it goes against conventional wisdom.
Okay, this next phrase is all about getting down to business and tackling a task head on. It's get the ball rolling. The Source podcast defines it as to start something. Where do you think this one comes from?
Get the ball rolling implies a sense of momentum, doesn't it? Like setting something in motion that will continue to move forward.
Yeah, it makes me think of a bowling ball heading down the lane, knocking down pins along the way.
Exactly. And that's likely where the phrase originated from, the physical act of starting a game or activity.
So how might someone use this phrase in a way that sounds natural and fluent?
Let's say you're leading a team meeting and you want to brainstorm ideas for a new project. You might say, all right, let's get the ball rolling by sharing any initial thoughts you have.
It's like you're giving everyone permission to jump in and contribute, creating a sense of forward movement.
Precisely. It's a way to initiate action and encourage participation.
All right, up next is a phrase that suggests a shift in perspective, a change in approach. It's go back to the drawing board. The Source podcast defines it as to start planning something again because the first plan failed. What stands out to you about this phrase?
Go back to the drawing board is a fantastic phrase because it encourages resilience and adaptability. It recognizes that failure is often a part of the process and that instead of giving up, we can learn from our mistakes and try again.
It's like hitting a roadblock. But instead of seeing it as the end of the road, you see it as an opportunity to reroute and find a new path.
Exactly. It emphasizes the importance of iteration and being willing to start over, even if it means admitting that the first attempt didn't work out.
So how would someone use this phrase in a way that reflects its nuanced meaning?
Imagine a team has been working on a marketing campaign that's not getting the desired results. They might say, it's time to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new strategy.
It's like saying, okay, that didn't work, but we're not giving up. We're going to take what we've learned and use it to create something even better.
Exactly. It's about embracing failure as a learning opportunity and maintaining a positive attitude in the face of setbacks.
This next one is for all those situations where you find yourself in over your head, maybe a bit overwhelmed. It's in over your head. The Source podcast defines it as to be involved in a difficult situation that you can't control. What are your thoughts on this one?
In over your head captures that feeling of being overwhelmed, of facing a challenge that exceeds your current abilities or resources. It can be a stressful situation, but it can also be a catalyst for growth.
Yeah, it's like swimming in the deep end when you're still learning how to stay afloat. It can be scary, but it can also force you to learn quickly.
Exactly. Sometimes being in over your head is the only way to truly push your limits and discover what you're capable of.
So how would someone use this phrase in a way that reflects its nuanced meaning?
Imagine a student who's taken a really challenging course and struggling to keep up. They might say, I'm in over my head in this class. I need to get some extra help.
It's a way of acknowledging the difficulty of the situation and seeking support when needed.
Right. It's about recognizing your limitations and not being afraid to ask for help.
Okay, this next one is a bit more lighthearted and playful. It's miss the boat. The Source podcast defines it as to miss an opportunity. I feel like this one is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm curious if there's anything we can unpack here.
You're right, miss the boat is a fairly straightforward phrase, but it can also convey a sense of regret or disappointment at a missed opportunity. It's a reminder to be proactive and to seize opportunities when they arise.
It makes me think of someone running frantically toward a departing ship, just barely missing the chance to climb aboard.
That's a great visual. It captures the feeling of frustration and the realization that you were just a little too late.
So how would you use this phrase in a real conversation?
Let's say your friend tells you about a great investment opportunity that they didn't take advantage of. You might say, oh, that's too bad you missed the boat on that one.
It's a way of acknowledging the missed opportunity while also expressing a bit of sympathy.
Exactly. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes you have to act decisively to grab those chances that come your way.
Okay, on to a phrase that I think we've all experienced at some point in our lives. It's on cloud nine. The Source podcast defines it as to be extremely happy. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
On cloud nine is a beautiful phrase because it evokes a sense of pure joy, a feeling of being lifted above everyday worries and concerns.
It's like you're floating above the world, feeling light and carefree. It's a delightful image.
It is, and it's interesting to note that different cultures have different ways of expressing extreme happiness. In English, we talk about being on cloud nine, but in other languages, there might be metaphors about flying high like a bird or feeling as light as a feather.
That's fascinating. So how might you use this phrase in a way that captures its true essence?
Imagine a friend just got engaged. You might say, you must be on cloud nine, congratulations.
It's a way of acknowledging their overwhelming happiness and sharing in their joy.
Exactly. It's a way of celebrating those special moments in life when everything feels perfect.
Okay, this next one is all about taking a break and stepping back from a situation. It's piece of cake. The Source podcast defines it as something is very easy to do. I'm curious about the origin of this one. It seems a bit random, doesn't it?
It does seem a bit odd at first glance, doesn't it? To compare something easy to a piece of cake. But it's thought to have originated in the late 19th century, possibly from the practice of giving cakes as prizes at competitions or fairs. Winning a cake was seen as an easy feat.
So it's not about the actual cake itself, but about the ease with which it could be won.
Exactly. It's about comparing a task to something that's effortless and enjoyable.
So how might someone use this phrase in a conversation?
Let's say a friend asks you for help with a simple task, like setting up their new phone. You might say, no problem, that's a piece of cake.
It's a way of reassuring them that the task is nothing to worry about and that you can handle it with ease.
Precisely. It's a confident and reassuring way to respond to a request.
Okay, this next phrase is all about putting your foot down and setting boundaries. It's put your foot down. The Source podcast defines it as to refuse to change your mind about something. I'm curious, is there a deeper meaning to this one?
put your foot down is all about asserting yourself, about establishing clear boundaries and refusing to be swayed. It suggests strength of character and a willingness to stand up for what you believe in.
It's like you're planting your foot firmly on the ground, refusing to budge.
That's a great way to visualize it. It conveys a sense of resolve and determination.
So how might someone use this phrase in a way that conveys its full meaning?
Imagine a teenager whose parents want them to come home early from a party. If the teenager wants to stay out later, they might put their foot down and argue for their independence.
It's like saying, I've made up my mind and I'm not going to change it no matter what.
Exactly. It's about standing firm in your convictions, even when faced with opposition.
Okay, onto a phrase that suggests a sense of urgency and importance. It's rule of thumb. The Source podcast defines it as a general rule. What are your thoughts?
Rule of thumb is an interesting phrase because it highlights the practical side of knowledge. It suggests a guideline that's based on experience and common sense rather than strict scientific principles.
It's like a shortcut to making decisions based on what's generally worked in the past.
Exactly. It's about relying on tried and true methods that have proven to be effective in most situations.
So how would someone use this phrase in a conversation?
Let's say you're giving someone advice on how to cook rice. You might say, as a rule of thumb, you should use 2 cups of water for every cup of rice.
It's a way of sharing a helpful guideline that's generally accurate, but not necessarily set in stone.
Precisely. It's about offering practical advice based on experience and common sense.
Okay, the last phrase on our list is one that suggests a change of heart, a decision to abandon a plan. It's throw in the towel. The Source podcast defines it as to give up. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Throw in the towel is a powerful phrase because it acknowledges defeat, a moment when you decide to stop fighting and accept the outcome, even if it's not what you hoped for.
It makes me think of a boxer who's been knocked down too many times and realizes they can't win the fight.
Exactly. It comes from the world of boxing, where throwing a towel into the ring signals that a fighter has given up.
So how might someone use this phrase in a conversation?
Let's say someone has been working tirelessly on a project that just isn't coming together. After repeated setbacks, they might say, I'm throwing in the towel on this one. It's just not working.
It's a way of admitting defeat and deciding to move on to something else.
Exactly. It's about recognizing when it's time to let go and focus your energy elsewhere.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the vulnerability of going out on a limb, to the resilience of going back to the drawing board, to the playful teasing of pulling someone's leg. We've explored a wide range of emotions and situations.
It's amazing how these 15 phrases can encapsulate so much of the human experience, isn't it? They offer a glimpse into how we navigate challenges, celebrate successes, and connect with each other through language.
Yeah, I'm already feeling more confident about using these phrases in my own conversations. It's like a secret decoder ring for understanding and using English more effectively.
That's the power of language. By understanding the nuances and origins of these phrases, you're not just learning words. You're unlocking a whole new way of thinking and expressing yourself.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the overall message of this deep dive. What do you hope our listeners take away from this exploration of amazing English phrases?
I think the biggest takeaway is that learning a language is so much more than just memorizing vocabulary. It's about understanding the culture, the humor, the way people express themselves in different situations.
Absolutely. These 15 phrases are just a starting point. There's a whole universe of expressions, idioms, and colloquialisms out there. Each one a little window into the soul of the English language.
And as we've seen, many of these phrases have fascinating origins and deeper meanings that go beyond their literal definitions. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, revealing hidden depths and connections.
Yeah, it makes language learning so much more engaging, doesn't it? It's not just about rote memorization. It's about discovery, exploration, and making connections between words, ideas, and cultures.
I was a bit skeptical at first about diving into a podcast episode about English phrases. I thought, how much could there really be to say about these everyday expressions? But I've been pleasantly surprised by how much we've uncovered.
I'm glad to hear that. And I think it speaks to the fact that even the most familiar things can be full of surprises and hidden depths. It's all about having that curiosity and that willingness to look beyond the surface.
So for our listeners who are on their own language learning journeys, what advice would you give them for incorporating these phrases and continuing to expand their English skills?
First and foremost, don't be afraid to experiment. Try using these phrases in your conversations, even if you're not sure if you're using them perfectly. The more you practice, the more natural they'll become.
That's great advice. It's all about getting out of your comfort zone and just trying things out.
What other tips do you have?
Pay attention to how native speakers use these phrases in context. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, read books, and observe how these expressions are woven into everyday conversations.
That's a great point. It's like immersing yourself in the language and absorbing it organically.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of repetition. The more you hear and use these phrases, the more they'll become embedded in your memory.
This deep dive has really highlighted the importance of not just learning the what of language, but the why and the how. It's about understanding the context, the nuances, and the cultural baggage that each phrase carries.
It's about making those connections, seeing the patterns, and appreciating the richness and complexity of language.
And it's about having fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Embrace the playful side of language. Experiment with different expressions and enjoy the journey of discovery.
Well said. Language learning should be a joyful experience. It's about expanding your horizons, connecting with other cultures, and expressing yourself in new and creative ways.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep those ears open for those amazing phrases that can unlock a whole new level of fluency and confidence in English.
And remember, time flies, so make the most of every opportunity to learn and grow.
That's a great reminder. We've certainly seen how much we can learn in just one deep dive into these 15 phrases. Imagine what you can discover if you keep that curiosity alive and embrace the endless possibilities of language.
Until next time, happy language learning. Hey everyone, and welcome. Get ready to power up your vocabulary because today we're going deep on some seriously advanced English words.
Ooh, I love it, a deep dive.
We're taking inspiration from a podcast episode that called itself a vocabulary masterclass. It's got 100 words and...
100.
Yeah, 100. Don't worry, we won't go through every single one, but trust me, I've already found some gems that I'm adding to my own personal word bank.
It's amazing how just one powerful word can transform the way you communicate.
Yeah, and the podcast we're looking at today, they made a really good point about that. They were saying that having a strong vocabulary isn't about trying to sound, smarter than everyone else. It's about being clear and confident and making a real impression, whether you're, writing an important email or just chatting with friends.
It's true. It's like having a whole toolbox full of different tools. The more words you have, the more precisely you can express yourself and really get your ideas across.
That's a great way to put it. So ready to unlock some of these verbal treasures?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with the emotions category. The first word that really caught my eye was euphoria. That feeling of intense happiness, like you're on top of the world.
Have you ever felt that euphoria? What caused it for you?
Ooh, I have. For me, it was holding my first published book in my hands, all those years of hard work, and suddenly it was a real, tangible thing.
Wow.
It wasn't just happiness, it was this wave of pure joy and pride.
It's interesting, right? It goes beyond just regular happiness. It's that next level bliss when everything feels absolutely perfect.
Totally. Okay, let's move on to a word from the intelligence and thinking category. Astute really stood out to me. It's about having that sharp judgment, being able to quickly assess a situation and make smart decisions.
Astute. I think in the business world, that's a really valuable trait.
Oh, definitely.
It makes people trust your judgment. Shows you can think strategically.
It's like that colleague who always seems to know what's coming before it happens. They just have that knack for seeing things others miss.
They have that perceptiveness, that ability to see beneath the surface, to connect the dots.
Absolutely. Okay, shifting gears to describing people, and a quality I think we can all agree is super important. Resilient. It's about bouncing back from challenges, adapting, and just keeping going even when things get tough.
Resilient. Yeah, that inner strength we need to navigate all of life's ups and downs, like bending without breaking.
I wonder, though, is it always a good thing? Like, are there ever times when it's better to let go and move on rather than keep pushing?
That's a really good point. It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Knowing when to persevere and when to maybe adjust your approach.
Okay, let's switch to something a bit lighter. From everyday situations, how about seamless? We all love those times when things just flow smoothly without any hiccups.
Seamless. Yeah, like a perfectly coordinated project where everything fits together effortlessly, or a trip where all the travel arrangements work out perfectly. Just smooth sailing.
And it's not just about things going to plan. It's about that feeling of ease and effortlessness, right?
Yeah.
Like you're working on a project and the whole team is just in sync, ideas are flowing, you're making progress, and there's no friction at all. Okay, let's talk about imminent, that feeling that something big is about to happen.
Oh, imminent. That can be exciting. Or nerve-wracking.
It's like right before a big presentation or waiting for exam results, that feeling of anticipation and suspense.
Yeah, that moment, the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of imminent, I have this funny story about a time tell me, what happened?
Well, picture this. I'm backstage at this massive conference, heart practically beating out of my chest, waiting to go on.
Oh, I know that feeling.
The organizer comes in and says, "You're up in 5, get ready." I was about to head to the stage when, out of nowhere,
What?
the fire alarm goes off. It was a false alarm, thank goodness. But for a few minutes, it was pure pandemonium.
Talk about an imminent moment that took an unexpected turn.
Oh, wow. That's wild. It's a good reminder that life doesn't always go according to plan. You got to be able to roll with the punches. Right. It definitely put my resilience to the test, that's for sure. You know what I've noticed? A lot of these words like resilience, astute, euphoria, they're not just about expanding your vocabulary. They're about getting a better understanding of, well, yourself and the world around you.
I think you're right. Language is so powerful. The words you use can really shape how you see things, how you process your own experiences.
Okay, ready for another word that's kind of beautiful, but also a little bit sad? From the movement and change category, we have ephemeral, something that's fleeting, short-lived, like a beautiful sunset or, those cherry blossoms that bloom for, like a week?
Ephemeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, it captures that sense of time passing, reminding us to appreciate the beauty of the present moment because it won't last forever.
I think there's something comforting about that, even if it's a bit melancholic. Knowing that nothing stays the same forever, it kind of makes you savor the good times even more.
It's a reminder to be present, mindful, to really appreciate those moments of joy or beauty or connection, because their temporary nature is actually what makes them so precious.
I love that. Okay, let's indulge in a little luxury now from a describing things category. Opulent. Something luxurious, expensive. Think of a palace or a feast fit for a king.
Opulent evokes a sense of grandeur, abundance, sometimes even a bit of extravagance.
Yeah.
But I think it can go beyond material things.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Think about a perfectly curated art exhibit or a performance that moves you to tears. To me, those experiences can be opulent too.
I really like that perspective. It's about appreciating those finer things, whether they're tangible or intangible. And speaking of appreciating things, I really appreciated the tips that the podcast gave for actually making these words stick.
Oh yeah, the tips. They really emphasize the importance of using the words. Don't just memorize the definitions. Actually try to use them in your everyday life.
And you know what helps? Having a vocabulary journal. Write down the definitions, come up with your own examples, even draw little pictures to help you remember. It's about making it fun and personal.
That's great advice. Finding a system that works for you is key to making those new words a part of your active vocabulary.
And don't get discouraged if you don't remember every single word right away. Building your vocabulary, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
It is. And what's really cool is that language is always evolving. New words are being invented all the time. Old words get new meanings. The way we communicate is constantly changing.
It's like this giant, ever-expanding universe of words just waiting to be explored. Before we wrap things up, let's look at 2 more words, shall we?
Let's do it. Which ones are you thinking about?
Well, from the persuasion and influence category, there's eloquent. Being able to speak or write in a way that's fluent, persuasive, and really captivating.
Eloquent. It's about using language with grace, precision, and impact. Like those speakers who can hold an entire audience spellbound just with their words.
It's more than just being a good speaker, though. It's about having that certain magnetism that makes people want to listen to you. And I think we can all become more eloquent communicators, whether we're giving a formal presentation or just having a conversation with a friend.
Definitely. It's a skill that can be developed with practice and awareness.
Okay, last one from the professionalism category. Innovative. It's about bringing new ideas or methods to the table. It's a pretty straightforward concept, but so crucial, especially these days.
Yeah. Innovation is what drives progress. It's about pushing boundaries, thinking differently, and coming up with creative solutions to challenging problems.
And we see innovation happening all around us, don't we? From advancements in technology to the way businesses adapt in a constantly changing world.
It's amazing what human ingenuity can achieve.
Oh, groundbreaking. There's another good one. Groundbreaking. It's like innovative, but it takes it to a whole other level. It's those ideas and achievements that really shake things up, The real game changers.
Yeah, pushing beyond what we already know. Venturing into uncharted territory and coming back with something that really changes the game.
Exactly. Like those scientific discoveries that completely rewrite the textbooks, or art movements that change how we define beauty, or social movements that reshape the entire world. Those are groundbreaking
It's
moments.
about leaving a real mark on history, you know? Creating something that has a ripple effect that goes way beyond just that one moment.
You know, it's interesting. We might not all make these huge groundbreaking discoveries that change the world, but I think we can all strive to be groundbreaking in our own lives, in our own way. Don't you think?
I completely agree. It's about challenging ourselves, breaking free from old ways of thinking, and daring to create something new and meaningful, even if it seems small to other people.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's starting that business you've always dreamed of, or writing that book that's been in your head for years, or even just changing a habit that's been holding you back. It's about embracing that spirit of innovation and pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. And realizing that we all have the potential to make a difference, to leave our mark on the world in our own unique way.
I love that. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage everyone listening to really embrace the power of words. Use them wisely, use them boldly, and who knows, maybe even use them to create something truly groundbreaking.
It's so fascinating to me how these words, they seem so simple, but they can spark these really big changes in how we see the world. Just today, talking about these 10 words, we've touched on so much personal growth, resilience, innovation, even the power of language itself.
I know. It's amazing how much meaning and depth can be packed into just one word.
And this is just the beginning. Imagine what's possible when you really start to explore language, when you actively seek out new words and make them part of your life.
It's like this lifelong treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Always discovering new gems of expression and understanding.
Keep exploring, keep playing with language, and never underestimate the power of a well-chosen word.
Beautifully said. And there you have it, folks, our deep dive into advanced English vocabulary. It was just a little taste, a starting point,
Yeah.
but I hope it inspired you to go out and discover even more.
And don't forget, there are 90 more amazing words waiting for you in that podcast episode we mentioned. So if you're feeling adventurous, go check it out. In the meantime, keep those dictionaries handy and those minds open to all the possibilities of language.
After all, language is about connection, expression, and the joy of sharing ideas.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's all for today, everyone. Until next time, happy wordsmithing.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some really cool vocabulary.
Yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, so the inspiration for this deep dive is a podcast episode that I listened to. It was called, If You Know These 15 Words, Your English is World Class.
Bold statement.
Very bold, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that to the test and look at some of these words and see if they live up to the hype.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really about being, world class or showing off. It's more about just having the right tools for the job, right? If all you have is a hammer,
Yeah.
everything's going to look like a nail.
Exactly, yeah.
So having a good vocabulary just allows you to articulate your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
in more precise ways.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
The right tool for the job. Very cool. So let's jump into it, shall we? The first word that caught my attention was ambivalent. The podcast defined it as having mixed feelings about something. The example they gave was she felt ambivalent about moving to a new city.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty relatable, I think.
Yeah.
But why use ambivalent instead of just saying unsure or something like that?
Well, ambivalent suggests this kind of like simultaneous pull in two different directions
Okay.
where you're acknowledging that both sides have their own validity.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you're weighing the pros and cons and you're aware of that internal struggle.
Gotcha. So it's not just about the outcome.
Right.
It's about the process of
Exactly.
deciding.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is complex, and my feelings are too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where ambivalent would perfectly describe that feeling?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's look at benevolent meaning, well-meaning and kindly. The example was the organization's benevolent mission is to help underprivileged children.
Yeah.
So this seems pretty straightforward, but what makes this word unique?
It's got a lot of depth to it, I would say.
Okay.
It's not just about surface level niceness.
Right.
It suggests a much deeper kind of seeded goodness,
Okay.
a genuine desire to have a positive impact. I see.
Kind of altruism in action, radiating outwards.
It's like saying someone has a benevolent aura or something like that.
Exactly.
It says a lot about their character.
Exactly. You're not just being nice to be nice. You're being nice because you truly want to help.
Right, exactly. Okay, this next word I really like, conspicuous, meaning standing out in a way that can't be ignored. The example was her red dress was conspicuous in a sea of black suits.
Yeah.
Very visual.
Yeah.
But what is it about conspicuous that makes it different than just saying noticeable or obvious?
Well, it's attention grabbing. It's not just about being different. It's about owning that difference, sometimes even a little bit defiantly.
Ooh, I like that. So it's about being comfortable standing out from the crowd.
Yeah, think of those times you see someone who's conspicuously themselves, whether it's their sense of style or their opinions, they're not trying to blend in, they're making a statement.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This next one seems a little bit more straightforward, cumbersome.
Yeah.
Meaning large, heavy, and difficult to manage. The example was the box was too cumbersome to lift alone.
Right.
So this seems like a very practical word.
Yeah.
Less about nuance.
I mean, it definitely applies to physical objects, but you can also use it metaphorically to talk about a cumbersome process or a cumbersome bureaucracy.
Gotcha.
It evokes this feeling of weight, difficulty, something that's slowing you down.
Right. It's not just about the size. It's about the burden.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. All right, this next word, I think, is a bit more quirky, maybe eccentric.
Yeah.
Meaning unconventional and perhaps a little strange. The example they gave was his eccentric style made him unforgettable.
Yeah.
But what is it about eccentric that makes it positive and not just weird?
I think it depends a lot on the context.
Okay.
Eccentric can be charmingly unique, or it can be a little off-putting.
Sure.
But I think the key is to emphasize that individuality. Okay.
That creativity, that willingness to kind of break the mold.
Right. So it's not about being weird just for the sake of being weird.
Right.
It's about
embracing their true selves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think of someone that you would describe as eccentric. What makes them stand out in a good way?
It could be something like, their unique style, or maybe they have an unusual collection that they're really passionate about. It's about adding that splash of color to the world.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's about celebrating the people that bring something different to the table.
Exactly.
Who challenge the norm. Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to see why they call these world-class words.
Yeah.
They definitely have more nuance than just a simpler synonym.
Absolutely. They add a layer of meaning that really enriches how we express ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to epiphany, which refers to a sudden profound realization. The example they gave was she had an epiphany about her career path while on vacation.
Classic.
Yeah. Have you ever had a vacation epiphany or something? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I feel like that's when they hit you the most.
Yeah.
When you're relaxed and you're not thinking about work or whatever, and then boom. Yeah, it's that aha moment, right? Everything just clicks into place like a light bulb going off.
Exactly. So what is it about epiphany that makes it a better word to use than just saying realization or insight?
I think it really captures that suddenness.
Okay.
That feeling of everything falling into place at once.
Yeah.
It's not just a gradual understanding, it's a breakthrough.
Yeah. So I think for our listeners, what this means is that those aha moments, that they might be hiding in unexpected places.
Right.
So take a break.
Yeah.
Go on vacation.
Sometimes you need to step away from a problem.
Exactly.
To gain some clarity.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. This next one I thought was interesting. Fortuitous meaning, happening by chance. Often in a positive way, their meeting was completely fortuitous, but led to a great partnership.
Right.
So what makes fortuitous different than just saying lucky? Well, I think fortuitous implies this sense of perfect timing.
Okay.
As if fate kind of nudged things in the right direction.
Okay.
It's not just about random luck. It's about those moments where things align in a surprisingly beneficial way.
I see. So it's about recognizing that sometimes things unexpectedly fall into place.
Right.
Yeah.
And lead to something great.
Exactly. And appreciating those moments.
Ours.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Imperative, meaning critically important. Their example was, it is imperative that you arrive on time. What a statement.
Yeah, there's no messing around with that one.
Yeah, so what makes imperative stronger than just saying important or necessary?
I think it conveys urgency.
Okay.
It's not a suggestion, it's a necessity.
Right.
There's no negotiation there.
It's like saying you should do this versus you absolutely have to do this.
Exactly. There's no room for debate.
Yeah.
You need to take action.
Okay, let's move on to intrinsic meaning, inherent or essential. The example was curiosity is intrinsic to human nature. What makes intrinsic a powerful word?
Well, it refers to qualities that are inseparable from something's very essence.
Okay.
It's not added on, it's not learned. It's woven into the fabric of a thing.
I see.
It's a fundamental part of what it is.
So to say curiosity is intrinsic to us means that it's just part of being human.
Right. It's not a choice. It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
It drives us to learn and grow and make sense of the world.
Very cool. Okay, juxtapose meaning to place two things side by side for comparison. The example they gave was the artist juxtaposed light and dark colors to create contrast.
Yeah.
So this seems very useful in creative fields, but does it have any broader applications?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Juxtaposing is all about highlighting differences through contrast.
Okay.
And that can be powerful in art, in writing, even in critical thinking and decision making.
I see.
It's about seeing things in a new light.
Yeah.
By comparing and contrasting them.
It's like holding up two different pieces of fabric to see how their colors play off each other.
Right. Or comparing different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see where they agree and where they differ.
Exactly. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Lament, meaning to express grief or regret. The example was, she lamented the loss of her childhood home. This is a pretty heavy word.
Yeah, it is.
What makes lament different than just sadness?
Well, lament goes beyond just feeling sad.
Okay.
It's about expressing profound loss and sorrow, acknowledging the pain of something that's irretrievably gone.
Yeah. It carries a lot of weight.
It does.
So it's not just about feeling sad, but it's about expressing that sadness.
Exactly.
In a way that...
Yeah, it's about honoring what's been lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, nuance. This is a good one. Meaning, a subtle difference in meaning or expression. The example was the actor's performance captured every nuance of the character. What is it about nuance that makes it such a powerful word?
Well, it encompasses those subtle shades of meaning that can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Think of like the difference between a good performance and a truly captivating one.
Or a simple statement versus one that really resonates.
Yeah.
Just those tiny details.
It's about paying attention to those little shifts in tone.
Exactly.
And expression and meaning. Yeah. Okay. Prudent meaning, acting with care and thought for the future. The example was, it's always prudent to save money for emergencies.
Yeah.
So this is about being sensible.
Right. It emphasizes a thoughtful approach to decision making.
Okay.
Especially with an eye on the long-term consequences.
Right.
It's about being smart and making choices that will benefit you down the road.
So it's like that saying an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
It's about thinking ahead to avoid those bigger problems. Okay. Resilient, meaning able to bounce back from challenges. The example was the community was resilient after the natural disaster.
Right.
So this is about overcoming adversity.
It is. It speaks to that inner strength that allows us to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
And it's not about avoiding hardship. It's about having the fortitude to pick yourself up and keep going.
It's about bending without breaking.
Exactly.
And learning from those tough experiences.
Right, and coming out stronger on the other side.
Exactly, yeah. And last but not least, zealous, meaning having great energy and enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause. The example was she was zealous in advocating for environmental issues. So this is about that fire in your belly.
It describes that intense dedication.
Yeah.
That fervent enthusiasm for something that you believe in. It's about being fully committed to making a difference.
Yeah, so it's about that driving force that pushes you to fight for what you believe in.
Yeah, passion fuels action, and action leads to progress.
Well said. So we've unpacked a lot of powerful words here.
We have.
But now the question for our listeners is, how do you actually integrate these world-class words into your everyday vocabulary?
Right.
It can't just be about memorizing definitions.
No, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Start noticing these words when you encounter them in books or movies or conversations. Yeah.
And then consciously try using them yourself.
Okay.
In your own speaking and writing.
So make them your own.
Yeah, it's like working a muscle.
Right.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And the more comfortable you'll feel using them. Okay, so listeners, you heard it here first. It's time to unleash your inner word nerd
Yeah.
and put these power words into action.
And remember, this is a lifelong journey.
Right.
There's always more to learn and explore in the vast world of language.
I love that. Okay, so now that we've explored these 15 world-class words, I'm curious, what are some other words you think could be considered in this category? And are there words in other languages that capture concepts that English struggles with?
That's a great question. And one that we might need to save for another deep dive. But I encourage all of you to think about it.
Yeah.
Explore the richness of language and keep expanding your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because words have a profound impact on our thoughts, our understanding, and our world.
Absolutely well said. Yeah. It really is a fascinating idea to think about, like, other languages having words that maybe English doesn't quite have a perfect translation for.
Yeah. And it makes you think, like, how does that shape their worldview?
Yeah.
If they have a word for a concept that we don't even have a word for.
Right.
But speaking of interesting words, I wanted to kind of revisit a couple of these world-class words that we've talked about.
Okay, sure.
That really stuck out to me. One of them was fortuitous, which we talked about, meaning happening by chance, often in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's more than just luck.
Right. It's not just like, you won the lottery. It's got this element of destiny to it.
Right.
Sort of like serendipity, these chance encounters that can change the course of your life.
It's like even amid uncertainty.
Right.
There's this like hidden order or something.
Yeah, guiding hand maybe.
Yeah, leading you to these unexpected opportunities.
Exactly. And I think it's a really nice way to look at the world because it encourages us to embrace the unexpected.
Yeah.
To see the potential for good even when things don't go according to plan.
Yeah, I love that. Makes me think of that quote, like, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Right, exactly.
It's like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah. Are you resilient?
There you go. Perfect segue. So resilient was another one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Meaning able to bounce back from challenges.
Yeah, we all face setbacks, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And this word just embodies that human ability to bounce back, to adapt.
It's about harnessing that inner strength,
Absolutely.
to overcome those challenges, to dust yourself off and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that resilience isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending that everything's fine.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the difficulty, learning from it, and using that experience to grow stronger.
So it's not about being invincible.
Right.
It's about becoming more adaptable.
Exactly.
More flexible in the face of life's ups and downs.
Yeah, you're going to get knocked down, but you got to get back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier with mastering vocabulary. It's not just about sounding smart.
Exactly. It's about expanding your capacity for thought.
Right.
For nuanced understanding, for expressing yourself with clarity and connecting with others on a deeper level.
It's about wielding language as a tool.
Yes.
To build stronger relationships, to communicate more effectively,
right,
to contribute to the world in a positive way.
It's a superpower.
It is. We're all superheroes.
Yeah.
With our words as our superpower.
And the best part is anyone can develop this superpower.
That's right.
It just takes effort and curiosity.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so I want to kind of revisit that thought-provoking question that you asked earlier.
Oh, you mean about whether there are words in other languages that express things that English maybe struggles with?
Yes, exactly.
It's a really fascinating idea, right? To think that there might be these whole universes of meaning out there that we haven't even begun to grasp because our language doesn't have the words for them.
It's a very humbling thought.
It is.
But also really exciting.
Yeah.
To think that there's all this stuff out there to learn. And that maybe we can learn to see the world differently by learning these new words.
Exactly.
I was thinking about a couple of examples, like the word saudade in Portuguese.
Oh, yeah.
Which expresses this like deep longing.
Yeah, for something or someone that's absent.
Right, we're like ikigai in Japanese, which is about finding your purpose and joy in life.
Yeah, beautiful example.
These are like these complex feelings that English can only really describe with phrases or explanations.
Exactly, and these words just capture them so perfectly.
It makes you wonder what other amazing words are out there waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, what new insights and perspectives could they offer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to kind of transition to our next part,
Oh,
this deep
yeah.
dive. Yeah, so I think we can give our listeners a little challenge.
Oh, a challenge. I like
To kind of put this into practice. So we've talked about how English, like any language, has its limits, right? So I challenge you to find one word, just one in another language that truly captivates you.
Okay.
A word that expresses a concept or emotion that you feel like English just can't quite capture.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
So dive into its origins, its nuances, how it's used in its original language, explore its cultural context.
Yeah.
And then when you've uncovered its richness, share it with the world.
What a fantastic way to celebrate linguistic diversity.
Right.
It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more ways to see the world through the lens of language.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll uncover some new world-class words along the way.
I have no doubt we will.
So to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
I say this, embrace your inner word nerd.
Yes.
Go forth and explore the vast and wondrous world of language. There are treasures waiting to be discovered.
And remember, the quest for linguistic mastery never truly ends.
Yeah.
It's a journey filled with endless fascination and enrichment.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those vocabularies expanding. All right, so you're prepping for a job interview, and let's face it, everybody wants to just knock it out of the park.
Yep.
We're going to dive deep today into some advanced strategies for job interviews, the kind that'll really help you stand out.
Yeah.
So we'll uncover how to really decode what hiring managers are looking for. We'll talk about leveling up your vocabulary for interviews and even mastering the art of asking really insightful questions. The kind that leave them thinking, wow, this is the one.
Yeah, it's interesting how often people, just kind of focus on reciting their skills and experience.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other level to interviewing that can really make a huge difference.
Okay, I'm really interested to hear more about that.
Yeah.
What is this secret sauce that goes beyond just listing your qualifications?
You can think of it this way. Employers are kind of trying to solve a puzzle when they're hiring.
Okay.
They need someone who not only has the right skills, but also fits into their company culture.
Right.
Can tackle challenges effectively and communicates well with confidence and clarity.
So it's not just about checking boxes on a job description,
Right.
but really showcasing a much broader set of qualities.
Exactly.
I see.
They're assessing 4 key areas.
Okay.
Skills and experience, yes, but also cultural fit, problem-solving abilities, and communication skills. These are the elements that really show if you're the right piece for the puzzle.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of communication, one of the things we read about when we were prepping for this deep dive was upgrading your language. What exactly does that mean in the context of an interview?
This is where things get really interesting. The words you choose can have a huge impact on how you're perceived. So instead of using generic phrases like, I'm a hard worker, you can level up your language to something like, I'm highly self-motivated and consistently deliver high-quality results.
Oh, I see the difference.
Yeah.
It sounds so much more specific and impactful. Are there any other categories of these power phrases that we should be thinking about?
Absolutely. You can think about achievements. Achievement-oriented phrases like proactively implemented or spearheaded a project that resulted in.
Right.
Then there are problem-solving phrases, like streamlined processes to achieve or demonstrated resilience in the face of.
Okay.
And finally, don't forget about leadership phrases, like effectively mentored team members or leverage data to inform strategic decisions.
Wow, there's a lot to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But even with all the perfect power phrases, we still have those dreaded behavioral interview questions.
Right.
The ones like, tell me about a time you faced a challenge.
I know exactly what you mean. Those can be really daunting. But there's a technique that can help you structure your answers in a way that showcases your skills and experiences. It's called the STAR method.
Oh yeah, the STAR method. Remind me, what does STAR stand for?
It stands for situation, task, action, and result. And it's really a framework for telling a concise and compelling story
Okay.
that highlights your qualifications.
Interesting. So it's more than just stating facts. It's about weaving them into kind of a narrative.
Exactly. So let's say the interviewer asks, tell me about a time you improved a process. You would start by setting the scene, explaining the situation. Maybe something like, at my previous company, we were facing delays in delivering weekly reports.
Got it. So painting a picture of the context. What's next?
Then you explain your task. So as the team lead, it was my responsibility to identify the bottleneck and implement a solution. This clarifies your role in the situation.
Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
What about the action part? Is this where I throw in some power phrases?
Yes, this is where you shine.
Okay.
By detailing the steps you took. You can say something like, I analyzed the workflow, identified the bottlenecks, and introduced an automated reporting system.
I see how the power phrases kind of naturally fit in there.
Yeah.
And finally, the grand finale, the result.
Exactly. You would wrap it up with something like, this reduced reporting time by 50% and improved accuracy. So using the STAR method ensures that your answers are clear, concise, and they're focused on the positive outcome, which is what interviewers really want to hear.
That's super helpful. But isn't there a risk of sounding robotic or rehearsed if we rely too heavily on this method?
That's a great point. The key is to use the STAR method as a framework,
Yeah.
but still allow your personality and genuine storytelling abilities to shine through.
Okay, so it's more of a guideline than like a rigid script.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit more at ease. Now, even with the STAR method up my sleeve, there's still those tricky interview questions that feel like they're designed to throw you off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Like, what's your biggest weakness?
Us.
Or why should we hire you?
Those always make me stumble. What's the best way to approach those kinds of questions?
Well, when it comes to those tricky questions, authenticity is key, but it's also about strategy. So for what's your biggest weakness? You want to avoid cliches like I'm a perfectionist. Instead, choose a weakness that you've genuinely worked on improving.
So instead of trying to mask a strength as a weakness, it's about showcasing self-awareness and a growth mindset.
Exactly. You could say something like, I used to struggle with delegation, but I've actively worked on improving this skill by mentoring junior team members and assigning tasks based on their strengths.
Okay, so you turn a potential negative into a positive and highlight your commitment to development. I like that. What about why should we hire you? Any tips for making a really strong case there?
That's your chance to really shine. Don't just repeat your resume. You really want to connect your unique skills and experiences to their needs. Paint a picture of the value you would bring.
So less about I'm a hard worker and more about my background in data analysis and proven ability to streamline processes make me uniquely qualified to step into this role and contribute to your team's efficiency goals. Something like that.
Now you're talking. You showcased your understanding of their needs and you've highlighted how your strengths align with their goals.
This is all about showcasing the value that we bring. But what about questions that feel a bit more personal? Like, why did you leave your last job? Those always make me nervous.
Keep it positive and forward-looking. It's not about bad-mouthing your previous employer, but about demonstrating your career aspirations. So you could say something like, I'm looking for an opportunity to grow professionally and contribute to a dynamic team like yours. Emphasize your excitement for the new challenges.
So framing it as a step forward, not a step away. What about that classic, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Question. How do you answer that honestly without sounding overly ambitious or like unrealistic?
You want to demonstrate ambition, but align your goals with the company's vision. They want to see that you're invested in a future that includes their organization.
Right, so it's not just about my personal aspirations, but about how those aspirations can actually contribute to the company's long-term success. Something like, I see myself taking on leadership roles and contributing to innovative projects within this organization. Would that work?
That's a great example. It shows you're ambitious, but also thinking about how you can contribute to their future.
Okay, this has been so helpful. I'm already feeling a lot more prepared to tackle these tough questions. But, it's not just about what we say, it's also about how we present ourselves, right? I've heard that nonverbal communication plays a huge role in interviews as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this secret language that can either enhance or undermine your message. You could have the most brilliant answers, but if your body language is screaming nervousness or disinterest, it can really sabotage your efforts.
Okay, now I'm a little nervous. What are some of the nonverbal cues that we should be really mindful of?
Well, eye contact is crucial. Maintain steady, natural eye contact with the interviewer. Don't stare them down or anything, but just show that you're engaged and confident. Posture is also important. Sit up straight and lean slightly forward. It shows interest and engagement. Slouching can make you appear disinterested or lacking confidence.
No slouching allowed. What about hand gestures? Should I just keep my hands glued to my lap?
Not at all. Hand gestures can be a really great way to emphasize points and add energy to your communication. Just make sure they're purposeful and controlled. You don't want to be like flailing your arms around or anything distracting.
Got it. A gentle breeze, not a hurricane. So we've got the confident posture, The natural eye contact, the controlled gestures, anything else we should keep in mind?
Don't underestimate the power of a genuine smile. It makes you appear approachable, likable, and confident. And just try to be mindful of any nervous habits that you might have, like fidgeting with a pen or constantly adjusting your hair. Those things can be distracting and undermine your professionalism.
Basically, we want to present a confident and authentic version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Both verbally and non-verbally. No pressure, right?
Right. But remember, the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can be yourself while also presenting your best self.
You know, one of the things that I always struggle with is that moment at the end of the interview when they ask, do you have any questions for us? I always blank.
You know, that's actually a golden opportunity.
Really?
Asking thoughtful questions not only shows you're genuinely interested in the role and the company, but it allows you to gather valuable information to help you decide if it's the right fit for you.
Okay, but how do I come up with questions that go beyond the typical, like, what's the company culture like? Or what are the opportunities for growth? I want to impress them with my insightfulness.
Think about questions that demonstrate your understanding of the role, the company's goals, and even some of the challenges they might be facing. For instance, you could ask, what does success look like in this role in the first 6 months?
Ooh, I like that one. It shows I'm thinking about how I can make an immediate impact.
Exactly. You could also ask about how the team measures performance and progress, demonstrating that you're results-oriented, or inquire about the company's goals for the next year and how this role contributes to those goals.
That's smart. It shows you're thinking long-term and about the bigger picture. Any other suggestions for questions that might wow them?
You could ask about the company's approach to innovation, or their commitment to specific values like sustainability or diversity and inclusion.
So aligning my questions with my own values and interests.
Exactly. It shows that you've done your research and you're genuinely interested in the company's culture and mission.
This is giving me so many ideas. It's like a whole new way to approach that dreaded, do you have any questions for us? Moment. Is there anything I should avoid asking?
Yes, avoid asking about salary or benefits in the first interview unless the interviewer brings it up. Your focus should be on demonstrating your value and enthusiasm for the role.
Okay, so it's all about showing them that I'm invested in the opportunity, not just the paycheck.
Exactly. It's about finding a role that's a win-win for both you and the company.
Speaking of finding the right fit, how do we handle those moments when we kind of stumble in an interview? You know, those awkward silences or times when we completely blank on a question?
You know, everyone experiences those moments. Even the most seasoned professionals have interview hiccups. It's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, but about how you recover.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. But what's the best way to recover when you've totally flubbed an answer or just can't seem to find the words?
If you stumble over a question, take a deep breath and just politely ask to rephrase or clarify. Something like, excuse me, I think I might have gotten a bit lost in my explanation. Would you mind rephrasing the question? It just buys you a few seconds to gather your thoughts.
That's a good tip. I tend to panic and ramble when I get flustered. What about those unexpected curveball questions that seem to come out of nowhere? How do you handle those?
Those are designed to assess your critical thinking skills and how you handle pressure. If a question throws you off, don't be afraid to pause and say, that's a great question. Let me take a moment to think that through.
So it's okay to take a few seconds to kind of compose myself and gather my thoughts.
Absolutely. It shows you're thoughtful and composed, not prone to rash answers. You can even use that time to reframe the question in your mind and connect it to your skills and experiences.
This is so helpful.
Yeah.
I often feel like I need to have an immediate answer ready for every single question, and that pressure just makes me more nervous.
Interviews are a two-way street. It's not just about them evaluating you, it's also about you evaluating them. Pay attention to the company culture, the interviewer's communication style, and any red flags that might signal that this isn't the right environment for you.
So trusting my instincts and being honest with myself about what I'm really looking for.
Exactly. The right job is out there. One where you feel valued, challenged, and inspired.
All this talk about handling those tricky moments has reminded me of something we touched on earlier, the power of the follow-up. Can we dig into that a little deeper? It seems like such a small thing, but I've heard it can really make a difference.
You're right. A well-crafted follow-up can be incredibly impactful. It's more than just a thank you note. It's a chance to reinforce your qualifications and leave a lasting positive impression.
Okay, so how do we make our follow-up stand out from those generic thank you for your time emails? Personalization
is key. Refer to specific points that were discussed during the interview. For example, you could say, I was particularly interested in your insights on the company's commitment to innovation in the area of, and then mention the specific area. It aligns perfectly with my passion for, and then state your passion.
That's a great tip. It shows that you were listening and genuinely engaged in the conversation.
Exactly. You can also use the follow-up to address any questions or concerns that arose during the interview.
So if there was a moment where I stumbled or maybe didn't articulate my qualifications as clearly as I could, I can use the follow-up to kind of provide some additional context or clarification.
Yes. It shows that you're self-aware and proactive. And remember, timing is crucial. Aim to send your follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of the interview.
Not too soon, not too late.
Got it.
This is like the icing on the cake, the final touch that can really make your application memorable.
Precisely. A well-timed follow-up can make all the difference.
Wow, this has been incredibly helpful. I feel like I have a whole new arsenal of tools and strategies to help me navigate the interview process with a lot more confidence and authenticity.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the more you practice and refine these strategies, the more natural and effective they'll become.
Speaking of practicing and refining, is there anything else we can do to really hone our interview skills and make sure we're putting our best foot forward? What about preparing for those behavioral questions? I know we touched on the STAR method, but I could use some more tips for crafting really compelling answers.
That's a great question, and it's definitely something we can dive into. One of the keys to really mastering behavioral questions is to not just recount events, but to showcase the skills and qualities that those experiences reveal.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not just about what we did, but about how we tell it.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Facts tell, but stories sell.
I like that. So how do we transform our resume bullet points into these captivating stories that interviewers will remember?
Start by identifying the key skills or qualities that you want to showcase during the interview. Let's say you want to highlight your problem-solving skills. Think back to a specific situation where you successfully tackled a challenging problem at work.
Let me see. Oh, I remember this time when our team was facing a major deadline crunch and the project was at risk of falling behind.
That's a great starting point. Now use the STAR method to structure the story, set the scene, the situation, explain your task or your role in the project, describe the actions you took to address the problem, and highlight the positive result or outcome.
So it would be like our team was facing a tight deadline, and as the project manager, I was responsible for making sure we delivered on time. I analyzed the workflow, identified the bottlenecks, and implemented a new communication strategy to streamline our collaboration. As a result, we not only met the deadline, but we actually exceeded client expectations.
That's a fantastic example. You've woven your problem-solving skills into this compelling narrative that showcases your leadership initiative and your ability to deliver results under pressure.
Wow, it really does sound so much more impactful than just saying I'm a good problem solver.
Exactly. Stories make your accomplishments come alive, and they help you connect with the interviewer on a much deeper level.
It's like giving them a glimpse into your work style and how you approach challenges.
Precisely. And remember, the best stories are those that are authentic, engaging, and relevant to the role you're interviewing for.
This is making me think about how I can reframe my experiences to highlight my unique strengths and personality.
That's the idea. It's about showcasing who you are as a professional and how you can contribute to their success.
I'm starting to see how storytelling can be a real game changer in interviews. It's like adding this whole new dimension to your answers.
It's a powerful tool that can really help you stand out from the crowd and leave a lasting impression.
Speaking of leaving a lasting impression, I remember you mentioned something about asking insightful questions at the end of the interview. Can we dig a little deeper into that? I'm always looking for ways to make a good final impression.
Absolutely. Asking insightful questions is a great way to gather valuable information, demonstrate your genuine interest, and leave a positive final impression. This is where you can really differentiate yourself.
I know we talked about asking about company goals and team dynamics, but are there any other types of questions that can really wow them?
One strategy is to tap into the interviewer's expertise. Most people enjoy talking about their work and sharing their perspectives.
So it's about turning the interview into more of a conversation.
Exactly. For example, you could ask something like, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in this role? Or what excites you most about the future of this industry?
Those are great. They show that you're curious, eager to learn, and genuinely interested in their perspective.
Precisely. And you might be surprised by the insights you gain. It could give you a better understanding of the company culture, the role's complexities, and even potential opportunities for growth.
It's like getting insider information while also demonstrating my intellectual curiosity.
Exactly. Another powerful approach is to ask about the company's commitment to specific values, like diversity and inclusion, innovation, or sustainability.
So for example, if I'm passionate about sustainability, I could ask, how does the company integrate sustainable practices into its operations?
That's a great example. It shows that you're not just looking for any job, but one that aligns with your values.
It also demonstrates that you've done your research and are genuinely interested in the company's commitment to those values.
Precisely. It's about finding a company whose culture and values resonate with your own.
This is giving me so many ideas. It's like a whole new way to approach the "do you have any questions for us" part of the interview.
Remember, this is your chance to shine, gather valuable information, and leave a lasting, positive impression.
It's like the grand finale of the interview.
Exactly. Make it count.
I'm definitely going to be practicing my storytelling skills and brainstorming some really insightful questions.
Great. Preparation is key to feeling confident and ready to ace that interview.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about impressing the interviewer, but what about those moments when things don't go exactly as planned? You know, like when we stumble over a question or get hit with a curveball that we weren't expecting.
Ah, yes. The inevitable interview hiccups. Everyone experiences them, even the most seasoned professionals.
It's like that moment when you walk into a room full of people and they're all staring at you and you have no idea why.
Exactly. It can be unsettling, but the key is to stay calm, composed, and just remember that everyone makes mistakes.
Easier said than done sometimes, especially when the pressure is on.
I understand. But here's the thing. How you handle those moments can be just as impressive as your perfectly rehearsed answers.
So it's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, but about recovering gracefully.
Precisely. Let's say you stumble over a question. The worst thing you can do is panic and spiral into a sea of ums and us.
Oh, I've definitely been there before.
Yeah.
It's like your brain suddenly goes blank and all you can do is stare blankly at the interviewer.
It happens. Instead of panicking, take a deep breath, acknowledge the stumble, and politely ask to rephrase or clarify the question.
So something like, excuse me, I think I might have gotten a bit lost in my explanation. Could you please rephrase the question?
Perfect. It shows that you're self-aware, composed, and willing to ask for clarification.
And it buys you those precious few seconds to gather your thoughts and come up with a more coherent response.
Exactly. Now, what about those curveball questions? The ones that seemingly come out of nowhere and leave you feeling completely unprepared.
Oh, those are the worst. It's like they're trying to trick you or catch you off guard.
Sometimes it might feel that way, but often those questions are designed to assess your critical thinking skills, adaptability, and how you handle unexpected situations.
So it's less about having the right answer and more about demonstrating how you think on your feet.
Precisely. If you're hit with a question that completely throws you off, don't be afraid to take a moment to pause, reflect, and gather your thoughts.
So instead of blurting out the first thing that comes to mind, it's okay to say something like, "That's a great question. Let me take a moment to think about that."
Exactly. It shows that you're thoughtful and composed. You can even use that time to reframe the question in your mind and connect it to your skills and experiences.
It's like turning a potential weakness into an opportunity to demonstrate my ability to think critically and adapt to those unexpected challenges.
Precisely. Remember, interviews are a two-way street. They're not just about them evaluating you, it's also about you evaluating them.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in trying to impress them that we forget that we're also trying to determine if this is the right fit for us.
Exactly. Pay attention to the company culture, the interviewer's communication style, and any red flags that might signal this isn't the right environment for you.
So trusting my instincts and being honest with myself about what I'm really looking for in a job.
Absolutely. The right job is out there. And it's one where you feel valued, challenged, and inspired to do your best work.
I'm feeling so much more empowered now. It's like I've been given this secret playbook for navigating the complexities of job interviews.
And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice your storytelling, refine your questions, and develop strategies for handling those tricky moments, the more confident you'll become.
You're absolutely right. I'm ready to tackle those interviews with a newfound sense of confidence and a whole arsenal of interview-crushing techniques.
That's the spirit. Now, there's one last piece of the puzzle that often gets overlooked, but can be incredibly impactful in setting you apart from other candidates.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's the power of the follow-up.
The follow-up, like sending a thank you note?
Yes, but it's so much more than just a polite gesture. A well-crafted follow-up can solidify your impression, re-emphasize your value, and even address any lingering questions or concerns that the interviewer might have.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some tips for crafting a follow-up that truly stands out?
First and foremost, personalize it. Generic thank you notes that just say thank you for your time don't really make much of an impact.
So it's about going beyond the basic, thank you for considering me for the role message.
Exactly. Think back to specific points that were discussed during the interview and mention something that particularly resonated with you. For example, you could say, I was particularly interested in your insights on the company's commitment to innovation in the area of Tamil, and then you mention the specific area that they mentioned. It aligns perfectly with my passion for, and then state your passion.
That's a great tip. It shows that you are actively listening and genuinely interested in what they had to say.
Exactly. You can also use the follow-up to address any questions or concerns that might have arisen during the interview.
So if there was a moment where I stumbled or maybe felt like I didn't fully articulate my qualifications, I can use the follow-up to provide additional context or clarification.
That's a great strategy. It shows that you're self-aware and proactive in addressing any potential concerns.
It's like giving yourself a second chance to make a really strong impression.
Exactly. And remember, timing is key. Aim to send your follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of the interview.
So not too soon, not too late.
Right.
Just the right amount of time to stay top of mind without seeming too eager or desperate.
Precisely. A well-timed follow-up can be a powerful reminder of your qualifications and enthusiasm for the role.
I'm starting to see how the follow-up is like the icing on the cake, the final touch that can really elevate your overall impression and leave them with a positive, lasting memory.
Exactly. It's a small but significant gesture that can make a big difference.
Wow, this deep dive has been packed with so many valuable insights. I feel like I've been given a masterclass in advanced interview techniques.
And remember, the key is to practice, refine, and adapt these strategies to fit your own unique personality and the specific roles you're interviewing for.
You're right. It's all about finding what works best for us and putting our best foot forward.
And remember, every interview, whether it leads to a job offer or not, is a valuable learning experience that can help you grow and refine your approach.
That's such a great point. It's all about continuous improvement and becoming the best versions of ourselves, both professionally and personally.
Exactly. And with that in mind, I'm curious to hear what has resonated most with you from this deep dive. What strategies or insights are you most excited to implement in your upcoming interviews?
That's a great question. I think for me, the biggest takeaway is the power of storytelling and the importance of crafting these compelling narratives that showcase my skills and experiences in a way that's both authentic and engaging.
That's fantastic. Storytelling is such a powerful tool, and it's something that can be applied not just in interviews, but in all areas of communication.
I'm also really intrigued by the idea of asking insightful questions that tap into the interviewer's expertise and the company's values. It's like a way to turn the interview into a more engaging and informative conversation.
That's a great observation. Remember, interviews are a two-way street. They're not just about them evaluating you, but also about you evaluating them to see if it's the right fit for both parties.
I'm also going to be paying more attention to my nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
I never realized how much our body language can impact the interviewer's perception of us.
Nonverbal cues are incredibly powerful, and being mindful of them can really help you project confidence, engagement, and authenticity.
Overall, I feel so much more prepared and empowered to tackle those interviews head on. It's like I've been given a secret weapon or maybe even a superpower.
That's the spirit. And remember, the most important thing is to believe in yourself and your abilities. You've got this.
Thank you so much for sharing all of these incredible insights. I feel like I've gained a whole new level of interview mastery.
The pleasure was all mine. Now go out there and crush those interviews.
I will. And for those of you listening, I hope you found this deep dive as valuable as I have. Remember, the job search can be challenging, but with the right tools and mindset, you can achieve your career goals.
And never underestimate the power of preparation practice and a positive attitude. You've got this.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to help you navigate the complexities of the professional world. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve. You know, all this talk about showcasing our skills and nailing those tricky questions has me thinking. Well, we spend so much time, focusing on how to impress the interviewer.
Right.
But what about figuring out if the company is actually a good fit for us?
That's such an important point. It often gets overlooked in all the frenzy of the interview prep.
Exactly. How do we go beyond just, answering their questions and really assess, whether we thrive in that environment?
It starts with self-reflection. Before you even step into an interview, take some time to really understand, what are your values? What are your career aspirations? What are you looking for in a work environment?
So it's like taking a personal inventory. of, our professional selves,
Yeah.
our strengths, our weaknesses, and what really matters to us in a job.
Exactly. The more clarity you have about what you want, the better equipped you'll be to identify opportunities that are truly aligned with your vision.
Makes a lot of sense. It's like having a roadmap for your career journey.
Right.
So you're not just blindly applying for any job. That pops up on your LinkedIn feed.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. If you don't know your destination, any road will take you there.
Right.
But if you have a clear vision of where you want to go, then you can choose the path that leads you directly to your goals.
Okay, I'm on board with the self-reflection part.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use that information
Yeah.
to guide our job search and, make smarter decisions about which opportunities to pursue?
It's all about alignment. Once you're crystal clear about what you're looking for, you can target companies and roles that are more likely to be a good fit. And this means going beyond just the job title, really digging into the company's culture, values, and mission.
So instead of just, firing off applications, to every company that's hiring for a marketing manager, I should be more selective and focus on companies whose values and, work environment really resonate with my own.
Exactly. This way, you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right job. A job that aligns with your passions and aspirations.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like dating. You wouldn't just go out with anyone who asks, right?
Yeah.
You want to find someone who shares your values and interests.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's so true. And when you find a company that truly aligns with what you're looking for, your enthusiasm and your genuine interest will really shine through during the interview process.
This is making me realize that self-reflection, it isn't just a one-time exercise,
Right.
but it's kind of an ongoing process
Okay.
of checking in with ourselves and making sure we're still on the right track.
Absolutely. You know your values and career aspirations, they might evolve over time. So it's important to continuously evaluate your goals, make adjustments as needed, and just ensure that your professional journey is fulfilling and aligned with your vision.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. It's like we've gone beyond those surface-level interview tips and really delved into the deeper, more strategic aspects of career navigation.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on how to approach the job search process.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, the job search can be challenging, but it's ultimately a very rewarding journey.
Yeah.
It's about more than just landing a job. It's about finding a role that brings you both professional success and personal fulfillment.
You're so right. And with all these insights and strategies we've discussed today, I'm feeling more confident and equipped than ever to navigate this journey and land that dream job.
That's what I love to hear. Believe in yourself, stay true to your values, and never stop learning and growing.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. I feel like I've really leveled up my career game today.
The pleasure was all mine. Now go out there and shine.
I will.
Yeah.
And to all of you listening, we wish you the very best of luck in your job search endeavors.
Absolutely.
Remember, you are capable of achieving great things.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep striving for your dreams.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to help you navigate the complexities of the professional world. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve.